This program is brought to you by Emory University.
All right. Hello and welcome to our second webinar. We are coming to you live from Whitehall, the Office for Undergraduate Education here at Emory University. My name is Tanya Willard. I am the Director of Orientation here at Emory College. And I want to welcome all of you who are joining us tonight. We know depending on where you are. So we're really glad to have all of you here with us. We also are aware that we probably have some parents and some family members joining us this evening, and we're really happy that you're here with us as well. Tonight we're going to be talking about first year academic requirements and policies, and before we get started, I want to go over kind of how this is going to work tonight and some of the rules that we'll be following, especially for the chat box throughout our time together. First, most of you have already discovered the chat box that is towards the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to send us questions this evening in the chat box, but we do ask that you keep those questions relevant to our topic tonight. We have several people on hand to answer questions, and it makes it a whole lot easier for them to keep up with your questions if we limit the questions to those that pertain to the webinar. I know that you're really excited to finally sort of be talking to your future classmates, and that's great. But for our purposes tonight, it just makes things a lot easier if we can just be really mindful about the questions that you're asking on the chat box. Also, if you have questions, if you have technical difficulties throughout this, you can also email us at ecorientation@learnlink.emory.edu, and our staff will be here as well to answer questions. So we're going to take about 30 minutes or so, and we are going to go through our topic, which is first year academic requirements. We're going to save some time for questions at the end, and we'll be able to take your questions, and hopefully our presenter will be able to answer them in real time. We're going to do our best to get to all of your questions tonight, but if we don't, it's not that we don't want to answer them, it's just that we have a limited amount of time. But if we don't get to your question, please feel free to email us at ecorientation@learnlink.emory.edu. So with that, I am going to turn it over to tonight's presenter, Steve Savage.
Hey there, as Tanya said, my name is Steve Savage, and I'm in charge of communications for the Office for Undergraduate Education here at Emory College. Part of my responsibility is to talk to you this evening about first year academic requirements and policies. And without much further ado, we'll get started. Awesome. Okay. So this is actually the first of a two-part presentation we'll have today, where we'll talk about the following topics, and then in 2 weeks we'll come back and we'll have some other topics that we are going to talk about. Just to say a couple points to start with. Nothing really that we're going to talk about tonight is new. It is all information that we have tried to cover in PACE Unit A, B, or C. So if you're up to date with that, this may not be new, but it might be nice to hear it from someone's voice behind it. And we'll also be coming back to some academic content later in Unit F and PACE. We will today be talking very generally about these topics, so we won't get into the details of your personal situation. If you have questions, feel free to direct those to our email, and we can forward them on to the appropriate offices to deal with the answers, deal with the situations that come up. So today we will talk a little bit about the Office for Undergraduate Education, what we do and who we are. We'll look at general education requirements and policies, AP IB credits, then on to the first year requirements, and then we'll have a brief discussion about the Emory credit system, which you may or may not have heard some rumors about. So in 2 weeks, we'll come back and we'll talk about the Emory College catalog, the course atlas, Opus and the shopping cart, and then we'll talk about the mechanics of enrollment. So we really won't get into that today. So if you do have those questions, hold fire. We'll come back to them in 2 weeks. So the mission of the Office for Undergraduate Education is to support students by providing academic services and programs designed to help you succeed. We do that in a number of ways. We have a large professional staff who are available to you as Emory students. They are all trained. They are the best people to ask questions of. We realize that students obviously want to talk to their peers to get some of the answers to the questions quickly. That's great, and we encourage that. But we'd also say if you have a question, try and seek out some professional advice or an answer from a staff member, because that way you know you're getting the exact information. So some of the services that we do work on, we have orientation, which obviously you'll be going through in a little under 8 weeks. We look after the graduation requirements, course registration, academic honor and integrity, academic advising, including the PACE 101 course, which again we'll touch on a little bit later in the presentation, academic support, which looks at things like time management and how to plan your schedules, the pre-health mentoring office. I know some of you will be very interested in pre-health, national scholarships and fellowships, undergraduate research, and there's so much more. This slide, I could have had 3 slides because we do so much to help you guys succeed at Emory. So the first policy is kind of the big policy, and this is one you need to know as soon as you arrive. What must I do to graduate? You might feel like you just got here and we're already talking about the end, but there's a lot you've got to do between the start and the end. And it's dull, it's dry, but knowing this information now will help you later. So you need a minimum of 131 hours of credit to graduate. 128 of those must be in academic courses, which those courses are any courses within academic departments, not including Health 100 or our physical education courses. You have to complete the requirements for your declared major, majors, or minor. You have to complete the general education requirements, and those are in yellow because those are all things we're going to talk a little bit more in depth. Additionally, the residency requirement means that you have to spend your last 4 semesters in Emory College. Those include approved study abroad courses. And then there is a GPA requirement. You need a minimum GPA over your 4 years of 1.9 for all of your courses. And you need a minimum senior GPA of a 2.0. So your hours to graduate, minimum of 131, like I said, with 128 in academic courses. These courses taken in academic departments, not including health or physical education. And then you have the 3 additional hours. You gain 1 hour from the Health 100 course, which you will take in your first semester in Emory College. And then there are 2 additional PE courses. One is a PPF course and one is a non-PPF course. You might be asking what PPF stands for. It stands for Principles of Physical Fitness. And these are courses which go beyond the actual activity and they have more of an academic component. They cover areas such as nutrition and wellness. And so you will do 1 course with the added component and 1 course without. So you will see the designation PPF when you start to look for your courses. One thing to note, there are some restrictions on the number of hours from dance and applied music courses that can count towards the major, or count towards the graduation requirement, sorry. And there's a link at the bottom of that page that will take you out and you can read more on those requirements. If you are a dance or applied music major, then you will need to talk with your major advisor and or the advisors in our office, and they will be able to help you through some of those challenges. Majors and minors. So you have to complete the requirements for your declared major and minor. That will include specific courses, and you'll be given the opportunity to choose some of your electives. From the college, you can only graduate with 2 concentrations. You can graduate with either a single major, 1 major and 1 minor, or 2 majors. There are no other combinations allowed, and so you will be restricted to that when you choose your major. And again, the final requirement is that you must complete your major and minor with a minimum 2.0 GPA. So the general education requirements, I've listed them here. I'm sure you already know most of this information. There are 9 GER areas. The first one is the freshman seminar, which must be completed within your first 2 semesters. The first year writing requirement, which must be completed within your first 2 semesters. And then obviously there are 3 continuing writing requirements, 1 math and quantitative reasoning course, and 2 courses within science, nature, and technology. And one of those courses must have a lab component. Moving on, we have another 4 areas. 2 courses within history, society, and cultures, 4 courses within the humanities, arts, and performance, or the humanities, arts, and language, and we'll talk about that in just a sec. 1 course in personal health, and this is actually taken care of by your completion of the Health 100 course in your first semester. And then there are 2 physical education and dance courses. And again, this is your 1 PPF and your 1 non-PPF course. So going back to your HAP, HAL, you must complete 4 courses within this area. This must include 2 semesters of coursework and a single foreign language where the instruction is not English. What you can do, however, is if you are majoring in a language, the additional 2 courses in this area can be satisfied by language courses. So by taking, say, 4 language courses, you would satisfy this requirement. Or you could take 2 courses in languages and 2 in other HAP areas, or you could do 3 in languages and 1 in another area. There's flexibility, but it must include the 2 language courses. AP credits. This is one we've already seen a number of questions come across the screen. I'm going to be very general here, very deliberately, because each student situation is different. In general, you will receive 4 semester hours of credit for each score of 4 or 5 on advanced placement, or a 5, 6, 7 on the International Baccalaureate. There are some exceptions, but in general, it's 4 semester hours. The college will only allow you to bring in 24 semester hours. So that would be the equivalent of 6 courses in general. Some AP and IB courses can waive the GER requirements. And all AP IB credits must appear in your transcript by the end of the first semester, and you need to mail those to the Office of Admission. If you look at the bottom of the screen, the right-hand corner, you will see a link to a file which you can download. That file has already been placed on the PACE course, and it outlines which courses we accept as AP or IB and what they transfer into Emory as. And so if you have specific questions, you can look at that list, and if something isn't clear, then contact the PACE team, use the discussion boards on Blackboard, or you can email us and we'll direct those questions appropriately. So we move on to the first year requirements, which is really what you're all here to hear about. In your first semester, you will be able to enroll in up to 19 hours. 2 of those hours we have already decided for you, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So you will have the remainder of the 17 hours to choose courses. In your second semester, so the spring of 2013, if your GPA is higher than a 3.0, you will be able to enroll in up to 22 hours. And if it is lower than the 3.0, you'll be maxed out at 19 again. The reason for this is we're trying to protect you. We realize that if your GPA is below a 3.0, your primary focus should be on raising your GPA and not taking a lot of classes towards graduation. So this is a protection for you guys, and we've seen that students who are capped at 19 hours tend to do better than students that enroll in more academic courses. The one thing to note as well is as students you're required to be full-time, and full-time means that you can enroll in no less than 12 semester hours. If you enroll in 12 semester hours, you're going to get some emails from people asking you to enroll in more courses. And again, there's a link at the bottom of the screen that just that will give you all of the intricate policy detail on ours. So, some information on your courses. In your first semester, you're required to take Health 100. It's your health. And this also satisfies the GER area. You'll also be required to enroll in the PACE 101 course, Pre-Major Advising Connections at Emory. And this course is designed to help you find resources on campus and to start to think about potential majors, potential streams, things that you should do to get yourself on the right track towards graduation. It's an important course, and we encourage students each semester to take an active role in both of these courses. By the end of your second semester, there are two which is Area 1, and the first year writing requirement, which is Area 2. And there are a number of ways that you can complete those. Particular Area 2, you'll have 3 courses to choose from, either English 101, English 181, or Comparative Literature 110. So we're going to walk through some example schedules. And I say these are examples, and the idea is to give you some ideas to think about how to plan your courses. You don't need to rush to finish your first year requirements. You have 2 semesters. And so what we tried to show in the first example is you could take your English course in the first semester, and you could take your freshman seminar in the second semester. Your first semester total courses, you would have English plus 3 other courses, plus health and PACE, which would be 18 credit hours, which is the typical course load for a first semester, first year student. Within your second semester, you would then take your freshman seminar and 3 other academic courses, and then you may opt to choose to take your PPF PE course. Another example, this time all we've done is we've decided, hey, we want to wait on English. We'll take that second semester. We'll take our freshman seminar first semester, and again, the totals work out. Another example, and this is the last example I promise you because it's more of the same information, but this time you're trying to take both of your first year requirements in your first semester, and you have 4 open courses for academics in your second semester. So we've covered the academic requirements, something we just wanted to let you know about because this has been published in the Emory Wheel, and we know that a lot of you have connections to older students within the college. We are changing the credit system within Emory College. There's some internal demand from our staff and from our students for this, and there's some external pressures for change. Currently, all of our courses are worth 4 credit hours. Under the new system, there will be variation of credits. Some will be worth 3, some will be worth 4 or 5, potentially 6. And this variation depends on a number of factors, and it will act as an indicator of time required for classes. So when you are choosing classes, you will be able to balance your schedules more appropriately. This isn't something to worry about. It was just something we wanted to talk about briefly with you because the information is out there. And we have had a few questions, but we'll talk more about this during orientation week, specifically Orientation Sunday, when you meet some of the senior leadership of the college.
So one of our questions is about placement tests. We've been getting a lot of questions on the orientation conference about when students can expect to get results of their placement tests.
Okay, placement tests are handled by each of the individual departments. What we've done is we've pulled them together so they're all in one place for you to find the resources. The departments will determine when they will get back to you regarding your test scores. That tends to happen
Another question that has come up is with the timing of placement tests. Well, maybe not the timing, but if an incoming first year student takes a placement test for a language now, but they decide not to take the language until their junior year, does that placement test still,
My
the results still apply?
my understanding is, again, this is dealt with on a department by department basis. So some departments will hold that test good, and some departments will ask you to retake the test. In that case, it's probably always safer to retake the test, because waiting until your junior year means that you've most likely forgotten or gotten rusty with the language you were learning. And so by placing at that point, it may put you in a level where you can, recap on what you know, and build from there.
Okay. Do you have to take a placement test if you are starting a language from scratch?
Yes, placement tests are there for all courses. Some departments, not all departments, require a placement test, but the departments that do will ask all students who wish to place in that subject. If you do poorly on the test, it doesn't reflect on you. It just means, okay, you need to start at the 101 level instead of starting at the 300 level.
Okay. Let's see, one more question about placement tests for the moment. And this was about the chemistry placement test. Who has to take the chemistry?
Okay, if you are intending on enrolling in Chemistry 141, which is General Chemistry 1, you will need to take the chemistry placement test. And in fact, there's not really a placement test. What it is, it's an interactive tutorial which will ensure that your skills are up to scratch for Chemistry 141. Chemistry 141 is a very challenging course. And so the idea is that it will prepare you to take that course. So if you're planning on being a chemistry major, or you're in the pre-med track, then the Chemistry 141 placement will be key for you.
Great. And where can students find placement tests right now?
Placement tests you can find on Blackboard in PACE Unit A. There is an entire section dedicated to placement tests. So if you take a look there, you will find them.
Okay. Are there math placement tests?
There is no math placement test for Emory College. If you applied to Oxford College of Emory, then you may have received some information about a math placement test. But here on the Atlanta campus, we do not have a math placement test.
Great. And could you maybe just add a little footnote to something that you just said, that
Yep.
for the language placement test, not all of the languages require a placement test.
No.
And some of them are not on Blackboard. So can you talk about, let's say I want to take French.
There is no French placement test. When you come in and you are trying to place into French class, you will meet with the French department and they will help place you. Sometimes in that early period of semester before the end of ad drop, if you place into a class and it becomes apparent that your skill level is either above the expectation for the class or below, the instructors may ask you to move class. And so take the placement tests that you want to take that are available on Blackboard. For any other subjects, hold fire until you come to campus.
Okay. We're not leaving placement tests quite yet, sorry. Do you need to take the chem placement test even if you have AP credit?
Yes. Chemistry. All students enrolling in Chemistry 141, regardless of your previous experience, will need to take the ALEX placement.
Okay. Right, we're going to move on to something else, but we can come back to placement tests if questions keep coming up. So first year students, actually all students have enrollment times for when they register for classes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes.
And maybe a sense of dates for the beginning of the year.
For sure. We will come back to this in more detail in our webinar in 2 weeks' time, but just generally speaking for you, all students will have 2 enrollment times. The enrollment times will be for August 28th. You will have 1 enrollment time in the morning, in which you will enroll in 10 hours of courses. So that would be 2 academic courses plus 1 hour of PACE and 1 hour of health. And then in the second enrollment time, which is in the afternoon of the 28th, you will enroll in the remainder of your 19 hours. In terms of the schedule, what's going to happen is those dates will appear, those times, because we know the date, will appear on your OPUS the day after our Opus webinar in 2 weeks. Your shopping cart will also open at that time, but we'll talk more about that next time. On August 27th in the morning, you will meet with your faculty advisors, and then you will go through the enrollment process on the 28th. And classes will start on August 29th.
Great. As a first-year student, I might be a little bit worried that there are no classes left for me to take, and I really want to take a particular class. How does that work?
100 and some 200 level courses, we lower the enrollment for upper class students. So while you're looking on Opus right now, it may say a class is closed. It may be because we have artificially lowered the number of spots in that class so that when you enroll, space will open up. The idea is that you're the people who introductory classes are intended for, and so we want to ensure that you get space in those classes.
Do students have to do their GERs in any particular order?
No, the only order that you need to do your GERs in, you obviously need to do your first year seminar and your first year writing in your first year. But outside of that, you need to have them done by the time you graduate. Some students like to get them done early. Some students spread them out over the course of 4 years. It's entirely up to you.
Great. This is a question that we get asked a lot, and so I, Steve, want you to be really clear about this one.
Yep.
As a first-year student, is there any way to override the 19 credit hour limit for my first semester?
There is absolutely no way you can override the 19 credit hour limit for academic courses. Sometimes there are courses where students involved in applied and that is our indicator of how well you will cope with the pressure of additional academic courses, so you have to wait until your second semester for that, unfortunately.
So I can't get permission from my... there is a question here about AP results and foreign languages, and if I do really well on my AP Spanish test, can I place out or test out of a Spanish class or a language requirement?
No. Even though you've taken the AP courses like we talked about previously, you must still take the placement test. While the Spanish AP course may come in and may count as a specific course on your transcript, it will bring you 4 hours. It will act as a replacement. Mostly, I think Spanish AP replaces Spanish 102. You will still need to take the placement test, and you will still place. There's no placing out of courses based on AP credit in the languages.
And that kind of brings up some confusion, I think, that I've been seeing pop up here about placing out of things and getting credit for things. That does not affect the 131 hours needed to graduate.
It does not. It counts towards the 131. So if you bring in 16 hours of AP or IB credit, then you would need 115 hours of Emory credit to graduate.
Okay, great. There is a question here about the deadline to submit AP scores.
The deadline to submit AP and admiss@emory.edu.
And just to be clear, whose responsibility is it to make sure that credit appears?
It is your responsibility to make sure that credit appears, and so you should check Opus. If it hasn't appeared on your degree audit within Opus on your transcript, then you need to contact the Office of Admission to find out where in the process it is.
Great, thank you. This may be something that you want to save for 2 weeks from now, but we can answer it now. Students are asking, what is the deal with satisfactory, unsatisfactory?
Okay. There are a number of courses that you can take as satisfactory, unsatisfactory, rather than graded. At Emory College, any grade D or above is considered a pass. And so if you opt to take a class as satisfactory, unsatisfactory, which our students refer to as pass-fail, if you were to score a D or higher in that course, you would gain a grade of an S. You are allowed to take no more than 19 hours of your 131 hours satisfactory, unsatisfactory, and you cannot take any GER, SU. The only GER you can take SU are your PE hours, your PPF or your non-PPF. Any other academic hour must be taken for a grade. While I'm on the subject of grades and GERs, your continuing writing requirement, which is area 3, you must always gain a grade of a C or higher for that to satisfy the GER.
Okay. How does a satisfactory, unsatisfactory class affect your GPA?
It does not. A class taken satisfactory, unsatisfactory, you gain the credit hour, but you do not gain a GPA from that course, and so it does not affect your overall GPA.
Great. I'm getting some reports that when we were talking about this deadline to submit the AP scores, that the screen froze, the sound stopped.
Okay.
So a lot of people didn't hear it. Deadline to submit, and who is responsible for making sure it's all there?
The deadline to submit your AP IB scores is the end of semester, fall semester of 2012. You need to submit those to the Office of Admission, either through your test board, or through your high school counselor, I believe. And the person responsible for those submissions is you. If they are not in by the end of that semester, they will not appear on your transcript. You will gain no credit for them. And so it is your responsibility to make sure that they are in on time.
Great. Steve, can you comment a little bit about class comments?
Yes. We've had a number of questions about class comments. Class comments is a feature on LearnLink, which you guys have been using to access your email so far this summer. You will have access to class comments around the start of school when you start to look at classes in August. Right now you have a stripped down basic version of LearnLink until you're aware of our IT policies. And so at some point later in the summer, IT will flip the switch and you will have full access to LearnLink. At that point, you will have access to class comments.
Great. There's a question that has popped up about GERs, and can a GER also count towards a major or minor?
Yes, we refer to that as double dipping. Sometimes your GER can count for more than just your major, and one GER society and culture and is continuing writing, and it may count for your major. And so a lot of students are finding that they will take GERs that satisfy multiple things in one semester. So yes, to answer your question, they can count for both.
Great. Let's see. There is a question back to the AP credits, and I don't know if this is going to be easy to explain or not, but how or where can they find their AP credit within Opus?
You will find it on your unofficial transcript. When you log into Opus in that top section of your student center, there is a link, I believe, that says View Unofficial Transcript. If you click on that, it should bring up all of the courses which are on your transcript, including your AP IB credits.
And also, because the sound I think went out, if their credit's not
showing up, you need to contact the Office of Admission.
And there was an email address that you gave out?
There is. The email address is admiss@emory.edu. That is ADMISS @emory.edu. admiss@emory.edu.
Great. Just to ease some of their concerns.
Yes, in 2 weeks we will talk about the course catalog and what that is, the course atlas, and the anatomy of a class page, what information you can take from it, what it means and how you can use it. We'll talk about the shopping cart and how you load courses into your shopping cart, and then we'll get more into the mechanics of the actual enrollment process. So when you guys are here, you will be ready to face enrollment on Tuesday, the 28th of August.
Perfect. I think we have one more question, and I'm just going to get some clarity on it um, before we end this. When is their shopping cart going to open?
Your shopping cart will open the day after our last webinar on Opus. So we'll talk you through how to use it. And then the day after, your shopping cart will go live. That will be the same day that you will see your enrollment appointments appear in Opus.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. This actually may be the last question. There have been some questions out there about what level classes first-year students are allowed to take. I think there's an assumption that they can only take 100 level classes, but could they take a 200 or a 300 level class during their first year?
You can take upper level classes, 200, 300 level classes in your first year. I think our advising team would probably advise you to try and stay to the lower levels, 100 and 200, within your first semester. You'll be doing a lot of acclimatization that semester, and so by taking upper level classes, you're adding pressure to yourselves that you may just want to avoid in that first semester, but certainly by your second semester, you'll have the lay of the land and you'll be ready to take some of those more challenging academic courses.
Great. There is a question that's come up, and I think Steve and I can probably answer this one together. A question has come up about the English assessment, the Emory English assessment. We do not have a webinar scheduled specifically for that topic. However, if you have questions about it, you can contact Denise Alvarez. She is the assistant director with that program, and she can answer questions about that. And all international students should have received a link to a survey for them to complete to indicate whether or not they are exempt from having to take that test. And that is in Blackboard. But again, if you have questions about that, I would contact Denise Alvarez. Anything else you want to add?
You can contact Denise at oue.esl@emory.edu. Again, that's oue.esl.
That is our time tonight. If we did not get to your question, or if our presentation has created more questions for you, that's okay too. You can email us at ecorientation@learnlink.emory.edu. I would encourage you all to go and do the tasks on Blackboard. It is actually required as part of your PACE grade. A lot of the questions that have come up tonight, the answers of those questions can be found within Blackboard. Which makes me think that not all of you are actually doing the work in Blackboard. So please do take the time. That stuff is really helpful. It'll make you feel better before you come here. You won't be so nervous. And it will answer about 90% of the questions I think that I've seen pop up on the chat box tonight. So please go do that. If you have questions about how to log into Blackboard or having some trouble with that, again, ecorientation@learnlink.emory.edu. Next week's webinar is actually going to be on Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will be talking about getting involved at Emory. Student Leadership and Service will be joining us for that presentation, and registration is open now for that session. So if you are interested in that, we hope that you will join us next week. And then the following week again will be Steve joining us again, and we'll be talking about the shopping cart and Opus, finding classes, and all of that good stuff. So I think that is all for us this evening. If you have any questions, again, ecorientation@learnlink.emory.edu, or you can call the orientation hotline at 404-727-9000. We look forward to seeing you in just a few weeks. Thanks for joining us.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Emory University.